welcome back to another lesson of the Logos and Letters. My name is Liam, and let's press on with what we're speaking about here. Evidekatai de to malonkai to heton. Ta boya. So all these qualified things coming from having the particular quality of whatever. Remember, there are 4 subordinate genera with their own particularities. They accept of to malon, they receive to malon kai to heton, which some may remember as the more and the less, or to differing degrees. Okay, so qualities admit of differing degrees. Here is an example. Okay, lukon, white, gar malon kai heton, heteron heteru legatai. So white can be spoken of in comparison one to the other as more or less white. Okay, so imagine, for example, if 2 girls get their nails done, and they both get their nails done white, one could be whiter than the other. If you consider 2 cars, 2 custom paint jobs on them, one might be whiter than the other, so on and so forth, right? The quality there of white seems to take up more or less. Kai dikaion heteron heteru malon. Kai auto de epidos dosin lambanai. So this is an interesting one here. So one justice can be spoken of as more or less justice. And that's true. Okay, justice can, an act of justice, or just the degree of justice can be more or less than another. Okay, so I know that from my own time as a teacher, that you observe how students interact with other students in their friends groups, and these students will be extremely just with their favorites and not so just with those who are not their favorites. Images of kids just chilling and hanging out. Again, when you need them, you don't see them. Here, right? So she might be very just with her, but very unjust with him. Okay, you can sort of figure out your own backstory for that. Maybe she's not just with anyone except the family dog. All right, but then again, the same act of justice. One act of justice can be more just than another. Okay, so if there are 2 people in need, you might do an action for one that is more just than the action for another. There's so many possible hypotheticals for that I'm just going to go down a rabbit hole if I keep entertaining that. So I'm going to press on. I think everybody watching can generate their own examples of an act of justice that's more just than another. So kai auto de epidos in lambanai. So the same thing seems to picks up or takes up a advancement. Epidosin, a progress, an increase actually is a really good translation there. Increase. Alright. Lukon garon eti en dekatai. Lukoteron genestai. How good is that? That just flows off the tongue. Aldein rein meli. How does Homer say sweeter than honey? Aldein rein. I don't know. Can't remember it. But lukon garon etien dekatai lukoteron genestai. So something that is white can then receive and become whiter. Okay, something can become whiter. Okay, so again, 1,000 million billion sort of hypotheticals there that we could speak about. Something becoming more so. I mean, look, if you have a really dirty car, filthy, and then the paint job is just wearing away, and it's a white paint job, that white paint job can be made whiter. And we all know that. Can seem brighter, right? Same with the paint of a house. Even if you want to say the brightness of a star can become whiter. So there's so many examples. I'm not going to go through them all. I don't think I could go through them all. Anyway, so panta de, but not in all cases. Panta de, alata plaista. But in the majority of cases, alata plaista. Dikosune I legatai malone kaeton. Right? So one justice to another justice is said to be greater or lesser. Aporesayan antis, right? Could make one wonder. Antis, aporesayan antis. Interesting to note if you're learning Greek, this is in the aorist, aorist. I don't know how people pronounce it in their different place, but over here it's aorist. Might sound incredibly Australian, but you know what I'm talking about. It's it's a verb. You might wonder why it's in the aorist when it's such a like a plain tense, but it's with an, so it's in something called the aorist optative, right? It expresses like a sort of hypothetical, but just a mild hypothetical, not an extreme hypothetical, just a normal hypothetical. Reasonable hypothetical situation. Took me a while to realize the connection between the aorist and an. I always imagine it with like really big hypothetical situations, but he's just saying, it might make some doubt whether justice really can be more or less justice. All right, one really can doubt about this or wonder at it. Homoios de kai epitonalon diathesion, right, and so on with all the other, in regards to the other dispositions, right? So justice is a disposition which can become hexis, a habit. Courage is a disposition which can become a hexis, a habit. So they all start as dispositions. That's why he's saying that. And the oigar, right? For some, diamphisbetusi. Diamphisbetusi is like they argue, there is controversy. They dispute. They're disputing. That's just regular old present third person plural active indicative. Periton toyuton dikaosune, right? About these things such as like justice mengar dikaosune, like is one justice more than another justice? Pano fasi dain legestai malon kaeton, right? It's difficult. It's not without difficulty to say that there is more or less. Wude hugiaias, right? So like, nor for such things as healthy to another healthy. Heton mentoi echain heteron heteru hugiaian, right? So it's just with like some people will doubt and dispute whether one justice is really more or less than other justice. Same with things like health, okay? I don't really have one that's just like pure health, but let me just click on this. I never show this picture. So they might doubt if you're healthy. There are some people who say if you're healthy, you're healthy. That's it. If you're just, you're just. Okay? So he's addressing this possible argument that people, the amphizbetusi, that they argue about. So, there's controversy, but let's continue on with that. Kai dikeosunen heteron heteru hosautos de kai grammatiken kai das alas diatheisais, right? So then he continues on. We'll finish this in the next lesson. So he's setting it up. He's showing how they do receive of degrees, and there is debate on whether they receive degrees. And of course, he has the intellectual honesty to address this concern, or maybe he just loves addressing the concern. I think it's the latter, and I think I've already spoiled the conclusion to this argument before in a previous lesson when I was speaking about the abstraction itself and and it as a physical, like as an actual accident in a substance. Like there's the abstraction, the idea of this thing, and then it in reality as its experience. I think I've already spoiled the conclusion. So those who can remember that sort of monologue that I went on about the difference between those two things already know the conclusion to that he's going to reach and settle the argument with, because the argument is really genuine. It is really genuine to say justice is just justice. Okay, there's not more or less justice. All right, but he has a solution. I'm almost certain that I've already spoilt the solution, so I'm just going to leave it there, but we'll conclude it in the next lesson. So if we take anything away from this, we can see how this would relate to Christian ethics massively, what we're learning here, enormously. This is a piece of logic that underlies Christian ethics, par excellence, when it comes to, because we're speaking about dispositions, and Christian ethics are all about personal dispositions, is it not? The Beatitudes are about dispositions, like point blank. And the will of the Messiah is that these dispositions become habits, all right? And all habits are dispositions. So what we're learning here, don't just think it's any old mundane sort of piece of education. No, this is at the heart of understanding virtues for Christians and for those of the other Abrahamic faiths. It would go the same. The way you understand them, the way you can consider ethics and actions, and the way that these virtues have degrees and whatnot. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. Again, I don't need to unpack it here because there is proper treatment of them later. However, it is my duty that I should show the connections at least, okay? Because that's what good teachers do, in my opinion. So yeah, if you take anything away from that, take away the interesting connection it has with virtues, ethics, even if you're not a Christian or from the Abrahamic faiths. Stoicism, goodness gracious me, the Stoics, they knew all about dispositions and qualities in general, receiving degrees. Read their writings. They speak about it all the time, in different ways, right? The actions of people, the envious, the jealous, the bitter, the angry. They talk about the degrees of such things all the time. So if you're a Stoic, if you're a theist of some sort, there's a lot to unpack here. And finally, we take away the case that there is a difference between the abstraction of a thing and the it in reality as an accident, okay? Whether it be a part of some action, some habit, disposition, some particular accident, there is a big difference between all those things and the abstraction itself. So yeah, I'll leave it there on that interesting point. And as always, si semper fortis in opere tuo. My name is Liam, and I'll see you next time.